What's up, guys? Day 14 of the 31 days of value. Today's Sunday. I kind of want to outline a little bit of my thought process as I go into a new week. Well, there's a few things. The first thing is I've had this habit since I first started my business, and it's deep work. It's computer time, right? And I think it's surprising to me how many contractors I know don't invest in a laptop or don't invest in some sort of stationary device where they can sit down, they can open up their software, they can see the big picture. And the amount of time that you have to invest in the office side of things is pretty substantial, as you hit a million, a million two, a million five, up to $2 million, you're probably going to be pretty heavily involved in that office time. And I'll kind of just run through some of the things that I do in the office, some of the things that I'm thinking about as the week unfolds. First thing is, and I'm kind of just going through drip jobs right now. The first thing I'm doing is I'm looking at the job schedule. Now, I do have a project manager who kind of runs the production, but I'm always overseeing it too, because I feel like this is a very important aspect of the business is scheduling, right? And identifying, where the schedule is going to break. One of our strategic advantages when it comes to sales is being able to promise start dates. So my schedule is color coded. We know which crew is going to be working on which job throughout the week. I know exactly when our next opening is. And of course, like one of the greatest leverage points when it comes to sales is time. So if we have a customer, we had one the other day, and she had just purchased a house. She's going to be closing the week of I think she's closing the 4th of September. And we had an opening, it looks like the 8th of September. And I can easily see that on our job schedule. So, for me, from a sales perspective, I'm always looking to see like where the job is, where the next opening is, and where our jobs are going to be. Another thing that's important that, unless you're a contractor, you really don't understand this, is you kind of want to make sure that you're keeping tabs on the temperature gauge of customers. And I say that because I've realized that there's some customers you just can't reschedule more than once. And, if you're not aware of those small details, you can't really create a really amazing customer service experience. So like, for example, if I have to move a customer, I'm seeing if we moved them already. I'm also noticing how the communication's going. And I'm also noticing, like, are there any red flags about this customer? I'm reviewing the estimate notes. I'm seeing like, hey, do I feel like this customer is going to get pissed if we reschedule them again? And I mean, you can only use the weather excuse so much, till it gets to the point like, hey, if you reschedule me again, I want my deposit back. So we want to avoid that at all costs. So when I'm looking at the schedule, I'm looking at, okay, like where's the break point? I'm looking at the company cam to see the progress photos of the different jobs that are going on. And I'm saying, okay, well, how much did they get done and how much is left and how much time did we allocate for this project? Now, if you're a subcontractor-based business, you don't really have to worry about this too much. But with employees, the only way an employee model works is if you stick to your time frames. Otherwise, you lose money, and that can easily happen. So, my thought process on Sundays is I'm looking at the schedule. I'm saying, okay, are we starting any jobs tomorrow? And if we're starting any jobs tomorrow, I'm looking into drip jobs, and I want that customer to be notified that we're going to be there in the morning. And what I do is I go to the jobs pipeline and drip jobs. I look for that customer's deal card, and I move it to the in progress stage. And when I do that, what happens is the customer actually gets a notification. The notification says, hey, Megan, it's Tanner with Premium Painting. Congratulations. Our job starts tomorrow. I know you're excited. Just so you know, our team's going to need access. So if there's any gate regulations or if there's a code to get in, please let us know now so we have a smooth start on tomorrow's project. And of course, if you have any questions, just let me know. So that's a text message and an email. And I can't tell you how many times people have responded, of course, number one, with the code, with the instructions. I had one lady, she said, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. I did not give your names to the guard or to the gate on Friday. So I'm actually going to meet your team there at 8 a.m. at the gate, and they can follow me in. So like, think about if that's ever happened in your business, like how much of a headache that is, or, your team can't get in, it's a terrible start. So I can't tell you how many times people have actually done that, but I also can't tell you how many people said, something along the lines of, I forgot, or, okay, I have to drop a key off to you. And before I did this, before I had drip jobs and really focused heavily on the communication, I'd get calls from my crew saying, we can't get in, they locked the door. And then I'm having a struggle in the morning to let them know. So that's the first thing I'm doing is I'm looking at my job schedule. I'm identifying are any of these jobs starting tomorrow? And if they are, who's the crew? Okay, so everything's organized by crew. In this case, I also have an automation that's set up where when that card gets moved to the project in progress stage, Drip Jobs fires off an automation that sends that crew leader and their team the work order, which is also built in Drip Jobs, in real time. So I used to send, this was for years, I used to every night before a day, before a job started, I'd have one team chat. And I used to use GroupMe. Some of you guys have been following me for a while. I used to use GroupMe, and I would just send like this big message to everybody. I'd be like, Shamel, Dan, Steve, you guys are here at this job, at this address. Mike, Joe, Sam, you guys are over here at this address. I'd be like, Billy, Mark, John, you guys are over here finishing this address. And like that, it'd be one message every night to the whole company. And with Slack, I've been able to actually segment the crews. So I mentioned Slack probably in one of the other 31 days of value, but each crew leader has a Slack channel and their crew members are inside of that channel. So the automation is when I move the card to project in progress, not only does the customer get notified, they get a text message and an email, but the crew in that Slack channel gets a message with the work order. It says, hey team, get ready. We're starting another job tomorrow. Here's the work order. Click here. They can click the work order. They open up the work order, and all of them have access to the address, to the notes of that job, and they can see the photos of the job that they're going to be starting. So, audit your current system right now. What does it look like? And I guarantee you it's probably not that. It's probably a little harder for you to get that information. That doesn't scale, and I think some of you guys are using WhatsApp. Some of you guys are just texting your crews the information. And ever since I did this, it's just made things so smooth. And you want team members that look at the work order. Like you want people that look at the work order the night before to see what they got going on. That's the type of team members you want, or people that actually care of like what they're doing and how they're going to approach it. So I wanted to make that as easy as possible for them. So the next thing I'm doing is I'm going into the pipeline, and we actually have this cool feature in Drip Jobs. It's the label feature, and my admin's responsibility is to mark every job as ready. And what I'm doing right now is I'm actually looking at the job we're starting tomorrow, and she did not mark it as ready. So I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to make sure that the crew notes in there are ready. So maybe she just forgot. So in real time, I'm kind of looking at this, and it looks like, so we have crew notes right now. So it says right here, yep, she puts the color. So soffit fascia gutters, drip edge front door is going to be 7020 Black Fox. It looks like the body color is going to be neutral choice, and then shutters and garage and gable are going to be fawn brindle. So I'm just kind of looking at that to make sure everything looks good. And at that point, once it's marked ready, then I know it's good to go. We can order paint. This is a pretty simple job. It's a 4-day job, and I'm looking at the job schedule, and we have it scheduled for 4 days. So again, like there's been times where it's been a 6-day job, and on the calendar it only shows 5 days, and we wind up scheduling a job for that 6th day, and it kind of messes things up. So I guess like one of my responsibilities in our business is obviously just like overseeing the schedule from the perspective of customer experience, because again, like when you look at a great relationship in any regard, there's a respect there in terms of like how one party respects the other party's time. And I take rescheduling jobs very seriously. If I have to reschedule someone 3 times, that 3rd time I'm on the phone, because I just know That's not a good look. I don't care what the situation is. Like, yeah, if we have a lenient person, I might be able to get away with it twice, but I don't care who it is. If you have to reschedule something 3 times, which has totally happened, we're getting on the phone and we're just going to hope that you like us. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at the schedule. I'm making sure everything's good there. I'm making sure that the team all has their work orders for their jobs that they're working on. Another thing I'm doing is I'm looking at the numbers from the month so far. So let's look at what our sales are for the month. So this month to date, we're at 132,000 in sales with a 30%, actually 34%. Let me see real quick. 33.8% closing ratio. The average job size is 5,500. So actually, I remember when I used to track my job size on a spreadsheet, and I've totally increased my job size from it used to be $4,000. Now it's 5,500. So I'm really impressed with that, just because I know that that's on the higher end of a residential only house painting average. I highly suggest you kind of audit what your average job size is. If you think about it from this perspective, just kind of just shooting from the hip here, but to get to 30 grand, you have to do 10 jobs if your average job size is $3,000. If your average job size is $5,000, let's see how many jobs you have to do. You only have to do 6 jobs. Okay, so sometimes it's not about more marketing and more leads. It's also about increasing the bottom line in your sales process. And I will be honest with you in saying home sales is the easiest industry I've ever upsold to multiples, right? In other words, you're not just doing little tiny upsells. In some cases, people will be like, yeah, you know what? Give me a quote for my ceiling. And the ceiling's $3,000. I was like, okay. So you've got a suggestive sell. I have a lot of content on that, but at the end of the day, totally suggestive sell. One thing I'm not happy about here that I'm looking at in the spread here is that in the last 30 days, I've gotten 50 Angie leads. Out of those 50 leads, which is absolutely bananas, I've only booked 13 of those leads, and I've only closed 1 job from those leads, which is $7,800. That's terrible. So I had to turn them on. It was looking a little slow, but we're not really converting them very well. What's interesting though also is that so far to get those 50 leads, I only spent $3,000 and I sold 7,800. So some of you guys would say, well, cancel it. I'd say, well, I doubled my money, right? So that's kind of the mindset that I'd like to share with you, is that just because it's not a major magical number here doesn't mean there's no value there. And I'm sure there's some in the pipeline. Let me see how many I have in the pipeline. So we have this cool sales list feature where we can actually filter by different things. So in this case, I'm going to filter by Angie leads, and let's see how many I have in the pipeline that have an estimate out sitting. Boom. Okay, so I got my Angie leads filter, and I'm gonna hit go. So I have, let's see, boom, boom, boom. Okay, and let's see, I'm pulling it up. So right now in Angie leads, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 proposals out from Angie leads customers right now, and that's, I'm looking at them. I'm gonna see if I have any labels on them. We're on follow-up number 3 for 1, follow-up number 1 for 3 of them, and we have one that says C notes for $5,000. So let me open up that one. Okay, so part of this episode is me just kind of taking you through my office time, what I'm kind of looking at. I'll be reviewing this weekend, may have some changes. So this is a $5,000 one from Angie leads. I'm looking at the text thread between him and my admin. It looks pretty good. So that one might close. And you got to help out your lead sources. At the end of the day, I want the ROI to be good on Angie leads. So I might do exactly what I'm doing now. And I might pinpoint some of those people that came in from Angie leads and might give them a little more attention to close them, to get more ROI on my lead source there, because I think there's value there. It's just people. I mean, at the end of the day. But yeah, we got 50 leads from them, and surprisingly, yeah, we only booked 13 of them. So the set rates kind of sucky on those for that spread. I know a lot of them were bad numbers and stuff. Google was 30 leads. Our set rate on Google is just bananas, 86.67%. I love that. And if you don't know what set rate is, that's the ratio in which you book a lead that came in from Google. So if you got 100 leads and you only scheduled appointments for 50 of them, you'd have a 50% set rate. The sales by source here for Google is 43,000 out of the pool. The website leads are 28,000. Facebook's 11. No, Facebook's 20. No, Facebook is 30 actually, because I have 3 different lead sources from Facebook. But word of mouth was 8K. Mailer. Someone came in off a mailer, man. I haven't done a mailer in a long time. So don't sleep on mailers. I should probably get a campaign going again. Use dope marketing. Probably the easiest way to get mailers out. Repeat customer, 4,300. Facebook boost, which is a boosted post from a long time ago. And yeah, another Facebook lead form. So 132K in the last 30 days with 24 jobs, won. Decent numbers. I mean, I'm happy with these numbers. So yeah, this is kind of like what I'm doing. I'm just kind of like checking everything. If you haven't been following my journey too closely, you would know that the estimating model that I had, I was actually responsible for building the quotes. So I'd send my estimator. He wouldn't build the quotes on the spot. I would build them in the office. Kind of was hard for me to let that go because I really like to make sure that we're pricing things accurately. And I also like using drip jobs, so I'm using the production rates. But I was noticing like it was just taking so much time. So my workflow now is I have the estimator go out. He goes out, takes pictures, takes measurements. So he's able to hit sometimes 6 to 8 estimates a day because he's not spending too much time there. And I'm actually having a VA in the Philippines build out the proposals with production rates because some of them take time. You have to build out each element of the job. And then it goes into a review bucket. And then really at that point, I'm just looking at them and saying, okay, I'm good. I'm going to send that. I need to tweak that. So that's been something that I'm trying, and it's saving me a lot of time. So I really like that aspect of what's going on in the business. But again, one of the cool things about drip jobs is that pipeline view. And I think many people who use it will say that because I can see everything. There's a label that we have called hot opportunity, and that gets marked by the admin whenever she feels like someone's like really leaning toward us. And I can filter the entire pipeline by anything that has hot opportunity on it. So if we ever need a job or if we're schedule slowing down, like we know who to call. And it's extremely powerful in times of uncertainty or peril. So, again, like this is my office time. These are the things I'm thinking about. These are the things I'm looking at. I'm kind of just making sure everything's in order for the week. I don't want the week to hit me hard. I want to hit the week hard. I want to make sure that, I just make sure we don't get screwed, So yeah, so I would audit what your office time looks like. For me, I'm really focused on the scheduling. I'm really focused on making sure notes are in the right places, that the paint order is going to be correct, that if there's any big deals that we need to look at. So I look at it from a general sales manager point of view. In a sense, I'm still at that level in my business. And, if there's any big deals, if there's any people that are moving in, like these are our best customers, those that are moving in, I like to know who they are. So yeah, I mean, pursue your sales. This week, I challenge you to get uncomfortable, right? If you're listening to this and you're following along with me, part of what I want to share with you is the fact that like you've got to get out of your comfort zone. You've got to trust in the process that's already been proven. And you can influence your results. I think that's the big awakening here is that you have to pull levers, and those levers, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but you don't fail. You kind of grow from pulling that lever and you say, okay, well, last time I pulled that lever, this happened, so I can expect that. But what if I tweak the way I pull it? Or what if I change this and pull it like this? And, so for me, my challenge to you is I want you to do 5 follow-up calls a day. And that means you need to have 5 conversations. That's not just, oh, they didn't answer. So I promise you, if you have 5 conversations a day with people that are either new leads that you still need, that aren't converting, or people that have proposals, at the end of the week, you will be pleasantly surprised with what happens. Okay, so let's just leave it at that. So that's my challenge to you. Day 14, 31 days of value. Thanks for hanging with me. If this is valuable for you, share it, like it, leave a review, send me a message or an email, tanner@dripjobs.com. I appreciate you for helping contribute to the growth of my channel here. And of course, if you want to try out Drip Jobs, do a demo first. Go to dripjobs.com, meet with our sales team, and the goal of the demo is to actually just show you how it works. We have a really high closing ratio, and I'm very proud of that. And that's simply because we just demonstrate the value. No one's going to twist your arm, and you can always just shut the laptop if you feel any pressure. But that won't happen. Anyway, with that said, thanks for hanging out with me. We'll see you tomorrow.